It was an overnight from Los Angeles. I'll sit. She asked for water 3 times, but barely touched it. She wasn't angry, just tired in a way that wasn't physical. Somewhere over the dark, with the cabin lights dimmed, she said, "I don't think he loves me. I think he just doesn't want to start over." He stopped saying my name. I knew it was over when he stopped saying my name. There wasn't a fight, no slammed doors, no raised voices, no moment you could screenshot and send to a friend with, "See, this is what I mean." If you had walked into our house, we would have said we were fine. He still came home at 6. I still asked how his day was. We still ate dinner at a table across from each other. Nothing dramatic happened. That's what made it so hard to explain. Because the first thing that disappeared wasn't love. It was my name. I didn't notice it right away. At first it felt like a coincidence. "Can you grab that for me? Are you coming? Did you see this?" Neutral, casual, efficient. For years, he used to say my name in the smallest ways. "Emma, look at this. Emma, come here. Emma, you're overthinking it." Even when he was teasing, even when he was distracted. There's something grounding about hearing your name from someone who knows you well. It's not just a word, it's recognition. Somewhere along the way, that recognition faded. One night, I was in the kitchen, washing dishes. He walked in behind me and said, "Can you pass the towel?" No name, just a request directed at the space I occupied. I handed it to him. I almost said something. I almost asked, "When was the last time you said my name?" But that sounded ridiculous. Who tracks something like that? Apparently, I do. The next morning, he left for work without saying goodbye. Not in a dramatic way. Not cold, not distant. Just absent. The door closed. No, "See you tonight, Emma." Just a click of the lock. That's when the thought first formed. Something is thinning. No breaking. Thinning. Like fabric that's been washed too many times. Still intact. Just fragile. We had been married for 9 years. 9 years of shared routines, shared passwords, shared calendars. We knew each other's coffee order. We could predict each other's moods by the way the car door shut. We were good at logistics. Bills paid, groceries bought, family birthdays remembered. But conversations had shifted. They become informational. Your mom called. The car needs gas. I'll be late Thursday. Statements, not exchanges. At dinner one evening, I tested it. I told him a story about a woman at work who had brought in homemade cookies for everyone. I paused halfway through, waiting for him to say it, waiting for, "What did you think, Emma?" But he just nodded. "Sounds nice." Then he checked his phone. He wasn't rude, he wasn't cruel, he just wasn't present. That's the part no one warns you about. Sometimes relationships don't collapse. They evaporate. I started noticing other things. He used to touch my lower back when he passed by me in the hallway. Not in a romantic way, just a small acknowledgement. That stopped. He used to correct people if they mispronounced my name. Now he didn't even use it himself. One Saturday, we were at the grocery store. I walked ahead to grab something from another aisle. When he called out to get my attention, he didn't say my name. He said, "Hey," just "hey." And it startled me, because it sounded like he was calling to a stranger. On the drive home, I stared out the window and tried to remember the last time I felt chosen. Not needed, not relied on, chosen. There's a difference. Being needed feels practical. being chosen feels intentional. That night, lying in bed beside him, I whispered his name softly into the dark. Daniel. He turned slightly. Yeah? There it was, immediate, responsive, alive. His voice, when he said, yeah, was still warm, still there. So why did mine feel erased? I started replaying memories, vacations, inside jokes, the way he used to say my name when he was proud of me. Emma, that was incredible. Emma, I knew she could do it. It wasn't just the word. It was the way he said it, like I existed fully in his field of vision. Now I felt peripheral. One evening I decided to ask something small. Do you ever think about how we talk differently now? He looked up from his laptop. What do you mean? I don't know, it just feels quieter. He shrugged. We're just comfortable. Comfortable. I nodded. But comfort isn't supposed to feel like invisibility. Later that week, we met friends for dinner. I watched him introduce me. This is my wife. Not this is Emma. Just my role, my function, my title. I smiled politely. No one else noticed. Why would they? From the outside, nothing was wrong. That's the strange thing about the quiet unraveling. It doesn't give you evidence, only intuition. And intuition is hard to defend. That night, after everyone left, I stood in front of the bathroom mirror and said my own name out loud. Emma. It sounded foreign, like something I hadn't heard in months. I tried to remember the last time he said it with softness. I couldn't. And that's when the realization began to form. Not as an accusation, not as anger, but as a quiet truth. When someone stops saying your name, sometimes it's because they've already stopped seeing you. And I didn't know yet what that meant for us. I just knew something fundamental had shifted. Not loudly, not dramatically, but permanently. Part 2. The day I said it out loud. After the grocery store, I started paying attention. Not obsessively, just consciously. I wanted it to be fair. I didn't want to build a story in my head that wasn't there. So I looked for evidence both ways. Maybe I was imagining it. Maybe we were just tired. Maybe this was what long-term stability looks like when the spark settles. But there's a difference between the calm and hollow echoes. I started noticing how he entered rooms. He used to look for me first. Now he scanned the space, like I was part of the furniture, not ignored, just assumed. One evening I changed my hair. Nothing dramatic, just softer, lighter around my face. He looked up briefly. Looks nice. Then his eyes dropped back to his screen. No double take, no smile, no come here. It wasn't a compliment that hurt. It was the speed of it, like checking off a task. I told myself I was being sensitive. But sensitivity isn't weakness. Sometimes it's data. A few nights later, we sat on the couch. I leaned slightly into him. There was a time when that would have triggered something automatic. His arm wrapping around me, fingers resting absent-mindedly on my knee. This time, nothing. He didn't pull away. He just didn't respond. And sitting there, pressed against someone who felt emotionally still, I realized something uncomfortable. I was initiating everything, every touch, every deeper question, every attempt to reconnect. He wasn't resisting me. He just wasn't reaching. And the difference matters, because resistance is conflict, but absence is acceptance. The next Saturday morning, I made a coffee and said, casually, do you ever feel like we talk less than we used to? I didn't look concerned. We're just comfortable. That word again, comfortable. I nodded slowly. Do you feel connected? He hesitated for half a second. Not enough for most people to notice, but enough. Yeah, of course. Of course. Not I love you, not I miss you sometimes, even when you're here. Just of course. I watched his face carefully. He believed what he was saying. That's when something inside me shifted. Because he wasn't withholding warmth. He thought this was warmth. Later that day, I asked the question I had been circling for weeks. When was the last time you said my name? He blinked. What? My name, I repeated gently. When was the last time you used it? He laughed softly, confused. Why would it matter? I swallowed. It just does. He leaned back like I'd asked something unnecessarily complicated. It's just a name. And there it was. That sentence didn't hurt because it was dismissive. It hurt because it was honest. To him, it really was just a name. To me, it was acknowledgement. It was presence. It was I see you specifically. Not just the role you play. I think, I said carefully, I feel invisible sometimes. He looked genuinely surprised. Invisible? We live together. I nodded. I know. And that's when I understood something I hadn't been ready to see. We weren't unhappy. We weren't fighting. We weren't broken. We were simply existing next to each other. Parallel, stable, efficient, but not intertwined. He saw our marriage as something that worked. I saw it as something that used to feel alive. Neither of us was wrong, but we weren't speaking the same emotional language anymore. He didn't think he had stopped choosing me. He thought staying was the choice, and maybe for him it was. But for me, being chosen meant being noticed, being addressed, being reached for. And if I had to explain why my own name mattered, that something essential had already faded. That night, lying in bed beside him, I whispered my name again into the dark. Emma. It sounded steady, solid, mine. He was asleep, breathing evenly, peaceful. And I realized something that hurt in a quiet, irreversible way. I didn't need him to start saying my name again. I needed to know he still felt it when he thought of me. And if he didn't, no amount of syllables would fix that. There wasn't a fight. There wasn't a dramatic ending. Just a realization. Love doesn't always disappear in explosions. Sometimes it dissolves in omission. And I knew it was over not when he stopped loving me, but when he stopped seeing me. And the scariest part, he never even noticed. Some doors close quietly, some never really do. If this story fell close to home, there's another one waiting for you here. This is Behind Closed Doors. Stay.